that is no surprise there. Women, every time we've had a baby, we hit puberty, we hit menopause, our numbers will change. So the point of knowing these two separately is that we need to go back into our original balance. So we already know everybody has a unique body, mind constitution or psychosomatic constitution. So it is called dosh. Dosh comes from the word dushya, which means fault, right? Now, I don't know if anybody is interested in earthquakes. I get interested when there's an earthquake. So when an earthquake occurs, where does it occur? It occurs on a fault line, right? It does not occur just randomly anywhere. There has to be a fault line. There is a route for the earthquake to follow. Earth follows the route. That's Earth's dosha. So Mother Earth also has a dosha. So this is a dosha. If you look at Vastu or any other Vedic sciences, they also use the word dosha, meaning this is a weakness. So we are born with the inherent weakness. Now, the Greeks called it humor, and I believe because of the eastern route, there were things coming from India to Greece, and that's how they invented the humors. I think they invented it from Ayurveda. I have a question here. So let's go back to the three doshas. Vata, we already know, is made of air and space. Pitta is made of fire and water, and Kapha is made of fire, earth, and water. So if you were to do your test, like Delphine just told me she's mostly Pitta. So Delphine, if I were to ask you, what is your principal Mahabhuta? What is your dominant Mahabhuta? What will you answer? You will say it's fire, right? Which means just by knowing that your dominant element is fire, I can say that you are sensitive to heat. You are sensitive to, your eyes may be sensitive. I can tell that, you probably have issues with acid reflux and indigestion sometimes. Not necessarily if you eat properly, but that would be an issue. And if someone here is a pure Vata, like a textbook Vata, does anybody know that? Okay, Rasamai. So yeah, okay. So if you know your Vata, as Atul just went through all the 20 qualities of air and space. What is the quality of air and space? Air and space creativity. It's mobile, it's light. For a Vata person to gain weight is hard. They're light-minded, they want a clean house. And they're really, really great at creative thinking. Mentally, it exhibits in creativity and dancing, mobile movement. They love yoga, dance, whatnot. And physically, it's hard for them to gain weight. And what does air do? Air dries things out. So when a Vata gets imbalanced, dry hair, dry skin, constipation, very, very common in Vata. Is it making sense now? So why didn't we start the first class by your dosha? Why did we went so much into detail by air and space? Because it is the qualities of air and space that are the qualities of Vata. It is the qualities of fire and water that are the qualities of Pitta. If it is the qualities of earth and water that are the qualities of Kapha. So for example, if Delphine comes to me and she says, oh, Monica, I get all this headaches and nausea, and I'm Pitta, and it's around my temples, and they can't find anything wrong with me. So what is happening? And I ask her a couple of questions. I take her pulse, and I find out her Pitta is very high. So I put her on what? For her headaches, I might put her on, okay, you need to take Amalaki, which pacifies Pitta. You need to put coconut oil on your hair for your headaches. And do not go out in the sun so much. And she tells me she goes for a walk in the, high noon, and that gives her a headache. So don't go out in the sun because you're Pitta. Do not eat chili peppers and salsa and hot food. Don't go and have tom yum soup from a Thai restaurant. Make sure that it has less spices. So that itself will eliminate the cause of her high Pitta. Does it make sense? So when someone has more fire, we want to add earth and water to it. When someone has more earth, we want to add air to balance it. When someone has more air, we want to add earth. So for a Vata person who is having constipation, to add bulk to their stool and to make them more grounded, we add earth element, more carbohydrates, proteins, fiber in their diet. So the entire course, it's pretty much based on your Mahabhutas and how to balance your Mahabhutas. If you were to not use the word Vata, Pitta, Kapha, it doesn't even matter, because the next class and the class after that and the class after that, all we'll focus on how do we balance the Mahabhutas. So one thing, you have to have the Mahabhutas and the qualities of the Mahabhutas on your fingertips. And when you join Block 2, we assume that you know your Mahabhutas and the 10 opposing qualities, and everything is based on that. So one of the things is, I've had people who come and tell me, and they say, oh, I am very Pitta, I have no Kapha. Well, it is impossible for you not to have Kapha, because our skin, our bones, our muscle, everything that's tangible in our body is Kapha. So how, for you to exist, you have to have Kapha. So we all are a combination of Kapha and Pitta and Vata. And then I have Kaphas who come and tell me I have no Vata. I said, well, your heart is beating, your nervous system is working. When you eat something, it moves. That is Vata. Of course you have Vata in you. It is the Prakriti that we are concerned about, which is the dominant dosha. Is it all making sense? I really want to eliminate all confusion from the word dosha. In fact, I do not like my students to use the word dosha. In our Ayurvedic community, we will use the word Prakrati and Vikrti. Prakriti is our original constitution, and Vikrti is what we are right now, temporarily. And I'm going to go quickly over this. So according to Ayurveda, each one of us has these attributes or qualities that is defined by the Mahabhutas, and some of them never change. For example, our eye color can never change, and some of them are always changing. And then I'll also go through what is the most important thing. So if you've ever done a dosha test, let's say online, how many of you have done a dosha test online? Or you went for a yoga studio, or you did a yoga training, and right? Oh, you kidding me? Ronnie's telling me that her eye color changed. I've never heard that. That's so funny. Oh, that is, wow, never heard that. Okay. All right. So some people have done their dosha test, and anybody who has never taken this dosha test or prakriti test, not from here, but before you join the college. Anyone? Okay, so basically there are attributes that are changing, that attributes do not change. So what we are doing today is our current Prakriti. Well, that would be interesting for you to know. So one of the things before we start, every time you take this test, it is always going to be maybe about 65 to 70% accurate. It is 30% not accurate because we are only using a pencil and a paper. For a 100% accurate Prakriti test, a person needs to be in front of you. So if you were to tell me what is my dosha, I ask you questions, but I also look at your appearance. I also take your pulse. I look at the shape of your tongue. I look at your eyes. I check your ears. I check your marmas. And then I give weightage to different questions. So for now, don't think that just because your Prakriti came out to be A, B, or C, that's what you are. It is always a little bit inaccurate. So you will see what we have created is very different from what all the tests that you see online. Not to say that the tests online are, bad. They're not. They're just incomplete. It's an incomplete history of a person. So let's compare the Prakriti and Vikrti. Prakriti is what you were born with. So as Dr. Kirti is going to do one of the classes for track B students at some point, which she really goes into detail. Deha Prakriti, the genetic code, what comes from the mother, what comes from the country and whatnot. But right now we're just talking generally about the Prakriti. And these are, think of the, genetic code, things that are inherited from parents. And also some of the Prakriti will change, your dosha will change. And some of these attributes, it should have been some of these attributes, not all, do not change with time, like shape of head, natural eye color. Vikruti is how you feel and look now. So let's say your weight is something that's going to change. Your weight will go up and down. The size of your bones, some people have thin bones, some people have thick bones. You can't change that. And this is based on internal and external factors that affect your body, mind now. Some of these attributes change with time, like life cycle, seasons, diet, and lifestyle changes, stress, appetite, weight, skin, hair, cognitive function, state of mind, and whatnot. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So everybody, pen and a paper. I'm going to give you 1 minute to fill this. Excellent. So I did this for myself, like you can see. I got 10 under Kapha. Oh, sorry, I got 2 under Pitta and 1 under Vata. So keep those points with you. And when we go to the next attributes, and remember, these are attributes when you were between 13 to 15 years old. Okay? So just, have them. Has everybody done? Can I move forward? All right, perfect. This is a picture of a typical Vata. This is one of our students who graduated some years ago. And, oh, that's me. You see the tummy all hidden under my sari? Yeah, very, very typical Kapha face. That's my little boy who's now 10. And that's very typical Pitta. Look at the size of her forehead. Very intelligent, and the red hair, long face, very, very typical Pitta. Classic textbook Pitta. All right, let's look at the physical attributes. Again, one of the things, these things are important, but the most weightage that I give when I'm taking the Prakriti test is, of course, your physical appearance, but also to your appetite, your eating habits, and so on. Okay, so we will do this. I'm going to pause myself for a second, and everybody can do this. All right, now add what you had from previously. For example, if you had 5 for Vata before and now you have 3 for Vata, now this becomes 8, right? And so I had 3 for Pitta, 2 for Pitta before and 2 now. So for me, it becomes P4. And I had 10, 13 for Kapha. And V remains the same. So can you count from before as well? Has everybody done this? Can I move forward? Okay, one thing I also wanted to mention here, that it is possible for you, again, we are doing this for when we are between 13 and 15 years of age, or 12 to 15, or whenever you got your period, if you got a period before that. You can have thin, dry hair, and you can also have red hair tones in you. So you can have combination. So if, for example, if you had thin hair as a child, plus it was dry, but you also had some red hair and red tones in the hair. So, and it's coming for both. So you can add 2 numbers. That is absolutely fine. It happens. You can have receding gums, and they can also bleed easily. That means it's a combination of Vata and Pitta. You can have eyes are pretty much, yeah. You can have big, large eyes, and they can be sensitive to light. That is Kapha Pitta. Actually, I also have that. So, very sensitive to light. Yeah, so I get 3 for Pitta and 3 for Kapha. Is it making more sense now? And this is all when we were, again, reminding you, this is not now, this is then. So it is possible that before you used to have thick, long, oily hair, now they've become dry. That would be your Vikruti. But right now we are doing Prakriti. Okay, let's move forward. Now think about things that you love to do. Of course, when you're in school, you know, they force the PE, whether you like it or not, but things that you love to do, things that you wanted to do. If you were a kapha like me, I did not like PE, but I liked endurance. I think Atul was mentioning how he's Pitta kapha, he liked wrestling. So things that you liked to do, not you were forced to do. For example, Vata would love to move. And again, the energy levels, remember your energy in high school, what it was like. Maybe you have better energy now. Maybe your eating habits were not so good. Maybe the atmosphere in your house or family was not so good. Maybe you have less energy now and you're more energy then. So we want when you were between age 13 to 15. Again, I'm going to pause myself and we shall fill this out. All right, now we move on to digestion and elimination. And this particular portion of the dosha test is also called Agni test or Agni assessment. Also called Mala Pariksha. So if I were to give weightage to everything that we had done, 10%, 10%, 10%, I would give 50% weightage to Agni assessment of everything that we have done in the dosha test. Because what is going in your body and what is coming out of your body is letting us know as Ayurvedic practitioners, because it's a non-invasive modality. It is letting us know what is happening inside your body and what dosha is active. For example, if someone is having constipation, they're only going once. Like I had a kapha vata person the other day who had she was constipated all the time, and she only went once every 3 days, and she thought that was normal. She thought everybody goes like that. Young girl, like maybe 19, 20. I said, no, everybody does not go like that. And she was gassy, and she had headaches, and then she had bloating. She thought that was normal. But to have, you know, that is actually kind of normal for an imbalanced vata. A vata person who's imbalanced or has too much stress or doesn't have enough water element in their body. I mean, if you look at a tongue of a person who's dehydrated, you know, it kind of appears dry. Their skin appears dry. You know, their eyes are drooping. You can see they're dehydrated. And dry hair, dry skin, and they'll be constipated, right? I'm not talking severe dehydrated, even a little dehydrated. And when you don't have that water element in your body, the water element is missing. You're not making enough sweat. You're not making enough urine. Well, you don't have enough ear wax. You don't have enough mucus or phlegm. Mucus or phlegm is the kapha principle. And you know, if you have, the tongue can be very dry, can have brown coating. It can have cracks in it. So this would be, I would say, the most important portion of the dosha test. It's the Agni assessment test. It tells us what is happening in your body, what is happening inside your body. So this might, if you don't remember back to when you were age, you know, between 11, 12 up to 15, what it was like. I mean, to remember how many times were you constipated? Maybe maybe you were eating cafeteria food and it didn't agree with you. I mean, try to remember at that time if you had to. Now, if you do tend to get constipated and you take, let's say, you've taken laxatives or you took something for it, then you still will choose this one. For example, when I ask people what are your energy levels, they will say, oh, my energy levels are good, but you know, I drink 4 cups of coffee and I take energy drinks. That means your energy levels are actually bad because you cannot survive without those energy drinks. So if someone is having a constipation, somebody is having regular stools every day, one bowel movement, but they can only have it with an external stimulant, maybe a laxative, then we would consider them constipated because without that, they are constipated. Making sense? So let's look at this, and I want to discuss this a little bit more, and I will go from each person, and we want to talk about the Agni test. Okay? And I will not record this portion. So if you were to look at, again, I want you to start thinking about the elements. You know, one of the questions that we give you, I think this is the very first question. This was supposed to be done by Dr. Aparna last week, but she couldn't come. She was not well. So one of the questions we give you is, what is your principal Mahabhuta, right? So if you had variable appetite, very hungry one day and not hungry another, tend to be gassy, constipated, did not sweat a lot, unless you were exercising, of course, urine was minimal, earwax, mucus phlegm. And in case of, us women, even the menstrual cycle, the menstrual blood was light. That means the menstrual cycle finished in 1 or 2, less than 3 days. Then it's a light menstrual cycle also. So everything is less. And again, that's why vatas tend to be a little bit anemic. They tend to be light and dry. That lightness and dryness of the air quality is presence in less sweat, less urine, less mucus, less water element. So this particular Agni, this is called digestive fire. This particular digestive fire or digestion is called Vishamagni. Vishamagni, meaning variable appetite. If a person, has a bowel movement today and does not have tomorrow, and has the other day and does not have the day after, that's variable appetite. And in order to balance them, remember we do this in detail in later classes, so don't get confused. So what is happening here? There is no water element in the body. There's too much air and dryness. We add water and earth element. We remove drying foods. I was just, while Atul was doing his class, I think I was writing some comments in one of Rasamai's um, um, assignments, and I was letting her know that some things have a lot, they dry you out. For example, green bananas, for example, beans, for example, pomegranate. They have a drying effect on the body. They're very astringent. Salads, raw foods will dry you out. But if a vata person were to have a lot of salad and drying food and too many beans, some of these foods, they will get dried out. So removing those foods from their diet would automatically help them. And also adding the water element, because they're naturally less in water element compared to a kapha person. So I would say a vata person needs to drink more than 8 glasses of water a day, but this water has to be warm, and it has to be in like a soup form or a tea form, like chamomile tea or tulsi tea, and warm water with lemon when they start their day. Is it making more sense now? I want to give you, this is the element, and this is what's wrong, and this is how we remove it. Kind of trying to give you a whole picture. So this is the most important part of your dosha test, because it is telling me what is coming out of your body. And this is where if we can nip the Agni in its bud, then the disease won't happen, because all internal diseases, according to Ayurveda, unless it's through parasites or, it's genetic, they're usually coming from what we are putting inside our body. We eat the wrong foods, we do not take care of a dosha, and that's how disease develops. So it's the first step in the development of disease. So if we can nip our Agni in the bud, then this is not going to happen. Let's talk about Pitta. The appetite is strong. So Pittas, if they do not get their food on time, they get very irritated. They need that blood glucose, more blood glucose. They need more sugar than kapha person. They can have 2, 3, 4 bowel movements, tend to be a little loose, tend to be a little yellow. Pitta is the color of yellow. Remember, bilirubin, bile, yellow. They sweat a lot. I mean, Pitta person will sweat a lot. So it doesn't necessarily mean it has a strong smell. When they're imbalanced, only then there's a strong smell. If any of you have sons who go and play sports, that jog smell, it's strong smell, that's very Pitta. Urine a lot, because one of the reasons is they drink so much water because they're always thirsty. That's why there's a lot of urine. Earwax, mucus, normal. Again, tongue tends to be a little red or pink. And if you see yellow coating, it means a little bit ama is present, which it's out of the scope of track A students. For track B, we will actually cover ama and the tongue towards, sometime in October. Kapha appetite is low, meaning a kapha person, if they do not eat their food or they miss a meal, it's not a big deal. I mean, remember, if a pitta misses their meal, it's going to be bad. They need to keep their, a level of blood sugar. They need to, because they're using a lot of there's a lot of brain activity in Pitta also, and of course brain needs its glucose, so they need to eat. And they have a very, very strong appetite, because think of it like it's, their stomach's like a furnace. It's burning up food pretty fast. It's burning calories. And elimination, one, thick, oily. So they don't get constipated so much unless they travel. But they get one bowel movement, sometimes two, sometimes can, but it's a thick, oily. I mean, for Vata must strain. An imbalanced Vata who doesn't have enough water in their body, they will strain. They have to strain. I mean, sometimes, okay. And Kaphas don't have to strain. Sweat, okay, Kaphas, think of it, if a Vata, Pitta, Kapha person, they all had to get on a treadmill or all go to a hot yoga class, Pitta will probably last 10 minutes because they'll be sweating a lot. Vata will be sweating more, hardly. And Kapha will be sweating somewhere in the middle of these two. Right? And urine. Again, minimal for Vata, a lot for Pitta, and Kapha is moderate. One thing is the amount of water a Kapha needs to drink would be less than a Pitta or a Vata person. Why? Because Kaphas tend to retain water in their body. In fact, one of the problems Kaphas will have is edema, water retention in their body, and their lymphatic system gets blocked, leading to excess water. So Kaphas need to digest their water too. Water is something that bodies need to digest, just like food. So Kaphas tend to have a hard time digesting water, so we ask them to drink warm water or hot water. Cold water is out. And that is why, because they have that excess water element in their body, it comes across as lymphatic congestion, just congestion in the sinus area. And where does Kapha reside? Kapha resides in, ear, nose, throat, head, lungs, 1/3 of the stomach. So this area tends to get congested. Usually their tongue is moist and thick and large. And they tend to have what we call Mand Agni. So herein, Pitta, they eat. If they don't eat, there's a problem. They also tend to make more acid in their body, more liver enzymes, more bile, just naturally more acid. So they might have acid reflux, or a GERD would be seen more in a Pitta person. All we have to do is remove the heat element through their diet and through their lifestyle. And for Mandagni, like person like me who's Kapha, always congestion, sinus issues, weight gain, you add, sorry, not head element, I meant heat element. I'm sorry. Let me write that down. Is it all making sense? Is it making sense? Yeah, I kind of want to explain to you, going back to, do not think of this as Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Think of this is the element that is missing and the element that we have to add. Think of it, this is how we balance. What element is missing and how do we balance it? If you start thinking Vata, Pitta, Kapha, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, Kapha, Pitta, Vata, it gets confusing. Forget the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Herein, a person has, I mean, if you look at it, everything is happening. Vatas tend to have lower, they tend to be a little bit anemic, right? So pranayama is so amazing for them. Again, everything that is happening, the constipation, less sweat, less urine, less mucus, is because less water element. So we add that water and earth element. Pitta, everything is happening because a lot of heat in their body. So we have to balance that fire element. And that water element, because Pitta is made of fire and water, the excess amount of liver enzymes, or the excess amount of acid or hydrochloric acid that a Pitta will produce is the water element in them. So the water is exhibiting as that acid in their body. In Kapha, it's all phlegm. Do you understand? And the water element will manifest as the heat that comes from the fire element will make a Pitta person balding at an early age as well. So knowing what the element is more important than this. So let's move forward. Mental attributes, very important. So again, I'm going to give you a minute to finish this. Okay. So now if you look at the mental attributes, I mean, just to give my example, I'm pretty much a Pitta mind. The only thing in my entire life that I took time to learn was driving in this country. I just learned very quickly. I mean, it's there, and I'm mathematical, logical, strong beliefs. I am quick to anger, especially in a hot country like India, not so much here. Leadership roles, busy. I do multitask too much, but everything else is kapha. So you can have a kapha mind, a kapha body, and a pitta mind. Does that make sense? You can have a kapha body and pitta. You can have a vata body and a pitta mind. You can have a pitta body and a kapha mind. It is possible. Or you can have a mix of two. Anybody want to share their anybody want to share the results with me privately? So there you go. Somebody just shared with me their pitta, but a little bit vata minded. It is totally possible. So when someone has, for example, if you are a vata mind or a pitta body, or a pitta mind or a kapha body, when you make a diet plan, a dosha diet plan, so you have to make a diet plan for your body and mind. So it has to be customized. Make more sense? So one thing you do is now you add up all the numbers. And now you please tell me what was your predominant Prakriti, what was the predominant dosha, what was the secondary dosha, and what was the least tertiary dosha when you were between age 12 and 15. You can tell me privately. All right. So one of the things is, you will notice that we always write V, P, and K. Why? So when we are telling our Prakriti, we always write V first, followed by P, followed by K. Why? Because V is the first element. It is air and space. P is the second element. That is fire and water. And kapha is the most, I mean, if you think of it, this is more subtle, and now it becomes a little gross. And of course, kapha is the most stable of the elements. It's earth elements. I mean, even if you look at the periodic table, it goes from the subtle to the gross. There's element in the periodic table. There's subtle, there's gross, and gases and whatnot. So we always write vata first. What is a vata? P second and K third. And it can be written in a variety of ways. There's no right or wrong way to write your Prakriti. Just to give you one example, somebody just wrote, I am V3, P2, and K1. Where does this number comes from? It means 3 means most dominant, the dominant dosha. And you don't have to write it this way. This means this is the dominant dosha, this is the secondary dosha, and this is the least dosha. Okay? Another way to write it is simply use an arrow. For example, I'm obviously kapha pitta. My kapha is here, pitta is here, and vata is here. This is another way of writing it, right? Another way of writing your dosha is an actual number. For example, vata is 6, pitta is 11, and kapha is 18, right? Just to give you an example. So all of these are correct, and all of these tell what is the state of V, P, and K. Make sense? Any questions? Now, this is the original dosha. I will just talk about myself because we haven't done Vikruti yet. So this is my pretty much original dosha where kapha is most, pitta is behind kapha a little bit, and vata is least. Now, if I were to do my Vikruti test, I've had a baby, I'm running a college, I have my own practice, so things have changed. So what is my imbalance right now? If I were to write that down, I would write my kapha is definitely increased. My pitta is kind of the same, but my vata has also increased, even maybe more than kapha. And it's, so if I were to make protocol for myself, what do I need to do? I need to reduce my vata and reduce my kapha. Pitta is pretty much the same. Does it make sense? So once you know what your baseline is, what we have done today is your baseline. We always want to return to our baseline. This is our baseline. For all of us, our baseline is different. So we add the different elements through food, through activities to balance ourselves. Make sense? I have my last presentation. It's only 30 minutes. I'm going to give you a little break, and then we come back and do the last presentation. Thank you.